Hello, welcome to the Saroy channel. I'm so glad you've joined me this evening. I've got a lovely camping experience of a Bigfoot encounter for you. So let's get started. I think you're really going to enjoy this story. Dear Sarah and all your listeners, I'm writing to tell you about my Bigfoot encounter that happened to me on the 7th of June 2010. I was 11 years old at the time, and one of my favourite things to do was to go camping. I had a best friend at the time called Nathan, and we would spend countless hours together. The trouble was that Nathan was so much braver than I was, and despite the fact that I was an outdoorsy sort of person, I never ventured into the woods on my own. There were all kinds of speculation about the woods that surrounded our property. We had heard horrifying stories about supernatural experiences, ghostly encounters, and weird animal noises. I have to admit the woods scared me. From time to time I'd heard strange sounds emanating from the woods that we could not explain, like the sounds of a woman screaming as if she was in the throes of being murdered. There had also been times we'd heard the most terrifying roars. But most of the time, however, we would hear the normal sounds of the night, like coyotes and owls, etc., etc. My father was a brilliant hunter, and he went into the woods very frequently to hunt squirrel, rabbit, and the occasional deer. He often told us that he sometimes felt he was being watched and even stalked, but he said he was certain it was his imagination. I was not so sure. One time my father came back from a hunt and swore he had seen a woman just vanish in front of him. "You saw a ghost," I said with excitement. "What did she look like?" My father was the most sceptical person I'd ever known, so the day he saw his ghostly encounter literally shifted his whole perception of reality, and I could see that he was struggling with what he'd seen. He told me that the ghostly woman was wearing jeans and a bright pink t-shirt and looked as real as you and I, and he was about to say hello to her, and then she suddenly just vanished before his very eyes. The story really creeped me out, and so after that encounter I really did not fancy going into the woods unless I went rabbit hunting with my dad, because I felt safe with an adult. One day Nathan begged me to go camping in the woods with him. Usually when I camped, I would set up shop just outside our wooden cabin, so that if things got scary, I could always rush indoors to the safety of Mum and Dad. However, on this occasion, I couldn't let Nathan down. He looked so excited about the prospect of camping in the woods, and it was his 12th birthday, after all, so I just had to be game for it, as reluctant as I was. My parents were fine about me camping in the woods as long as I had a mobile phone with me and a hunting rifle with me at all times. Nathan and I filled up our backpacks with everything we would need, including a tent for two, sleeping bags, flashlights, fire starters, a portable gas hob, a pot for boiling water, and of course the essentials like hot dogs, donuts, trailer mix, hot chocolate, marshmallows, and birthday cake. Suddenly, despite my reservations about the woods, I could feel faint stirrings of growing excitement. We would be all on our own, and that prospect gave me a great feeling. Perhaps I was finally getting over my fear of the woods, I thought. It was a beautiful warm spring day when we set up camp very close to the lovely creek. We immediately made a fire and made some hot chocolate over the portable gas hob. We had seen a few rabbits darting around and the odd squirrel retreating up a tree. It felt great to be out in nature, I thought. Suddenly we heard a rustle, and it sounded like two people coming towards us. It was a woman and a man, and they both also had backpacks on their back, so they were clearly intending to come camping. "Hi, guys," said the young lady, who was quite pretty, I thought. "This is my friend Kirk," she said, "and my name is Eloise. I see you've set up camp here. How nice." "That's right," I said. "We're setting up camp also. We will try to go further down the creek so we're not in your way, but don't get freaked out if you hear us during the night." "I'm sure you won't be that noisy," I said. "Well, I hope not," she said. "It really depends on what tonight throws at us. We're paranormal investigators, you see." "Wow," I said. "So you believe in ghosts?" "Of course," she said, "or I wouldn't be staying in the woods tonight, would I?" "What exactly are you researching?" asked Nathan curiously. "Well, there's been quite a few sightings of the young girl that was murdered in these woods about 10 years ago. The poor girl, she lived around here, you know, and her dog went missing, and so she came in the woods to find him. I gather he loved chasing rabbits, and it was hard to keep him away from the woods. Anyway, the poor girl never returned home and was later found in the woods with her head completely decapitated. Of course the dog turned up and he was fine. Oh, sorry, she said, looking at my horrified face. I really did not mean to scare you. No, I said, please go on about the girl, Did they ever find her? Did they find her killer? That's a bizarre thing, she said. It was the way that she died that raised more questions than answers. Even the medical examiner said that it looked as if her head had been plucked off her neck like a grape from a vine. That's how neat the decapitation was. Could it have been a bear? The medical examiner said that the death was undetermined because she said it definitely wasn't a bear, nor a wild cat, but it's inconclusive whether it was a human or not. The head was removed with perfect precision, but not with a knife or machete or anything like that. Unlikely to be human, I said. Well, we will never know. There's a lot of unexplainable things that go on in the woods in North America. Believe me, I've heard stories that would make your hackles rise. Are you hoping for a sighting of the girl ghost? Nathan asked. Oh, we want a sighting, but we also have our equipment, like our tape recorders, EVP monitors, temperature gauges, and of course our ghost box. We're hoping she may come through. Why are you doing the investigation? I asked. It's for the parents, she told me. They want answers. They believe her boyfriend at the time might have done her in. I gather she wanted to end things with him, and they think he's behind her gruesome murder. At that moment I was reminded of my father's ghostly encounter. Was she wearing a pink t-shirt and jeans? I asked. Eloise looked at me in shock, and her face went as white as a sheet. How do you know what she was wearing? She asked. I explained that my father believed he'd seen a ghost wearing a pink t-shirt and jeans in the woods not too long ago. Wow, said Eloise. That's 10 sightings of her in these woods over 10 years. Extraordinary. Anyway, guys, she said, we better set up camp for tonight's investigation. If you need anything, we're a little way down the creek. Wow, I said to Nathan when they were out of earshot. Wait until I tell my dad about this. It's going to freak him out, because it'll affirm he really did see the ghost of the girl in the woods. Finally the sun set, and after roasting marshmallows over an open fire, we decided to turn in for the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning that I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside our tent. I immediately thought it might be Eloise and Kirk doing their investigation. I climbed out of the tent eagerly. I wanted to ask them how the investigation was going and whether the ghost girl had come through or not. But it was not the investigators I saw, but the most humongous creature that I have ever seen. In that moment I wet my pants. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I just stood there staring at the creature, unable to shift my gaze from his menacing eyes that were glowing a bright red colour. I could see him clearly because there was ample moonlight, and he was a fearsome predator. If you think a lion is scary, this creature was 1,000 times worse, and I just knew he was going to kill me. I did not think it, I just knew it, without a shadow of a doubt. You would think I would run away as fast as I could, like any normal human being would, but I just stood there, frozen to the spot, simply unable to move. My legs felt as if they weighed 1,000 tons. Almost as if my whole body had become rock hard like dried cement. That is how impossible it was for me to move. The creature was so black he was almost navy blue. That's how dark he was. And his hair was thick and tangled, almost like he had dreadlocks. His face was huge and his body was massive in both girth and width. He was about 10 foot tall, 1,000 pounds, with strapping legs that looked like massive tree trunks. The creature let out the most terrible roar that even our tent trembled from the vibration, and he screamed, sounding just like a woman being murdered, the sound that I sometimes heard coming from the woods. Suddenly I heard gunshots as several rounds were fired in his direction. In that second, the creature literally jumped 5 foot in the air, and in 2 strides he was gone. I turned around and saw Kirk putting down his firearm. "What the heck was that?" he asked. "I've never seen anything like that before." "It's a Bigfoot, I think," said Eloise. "It couldn't have been anything else." "Are you all right?" she asked me. I tried to hold back the tears, but I couldn't. Nathan suddenly came out of the tent, clutching my father's rifle, and tears were also pouring down his face. I knew he was lucky not to have seen the creature, but just hearing him had filled him with terror. Finally, I looked at Eloise and said, "I think we found the killer of the young girl. It must have been that Bigfoot," I said. Eloise looked at Kirk and they both nodded. "I'm in no doubt," she said. "It makes perfect sense now." The parents were never told that we suspect Bigfoot killed their daughter, because Eloise believed that would traumatize them even more. But she did tell them that she believed it was not the boyfriend that was responsible for their daughter's unexplainable death, and that seemed to give them some closure. All these years later, I still enjoy camping, but I've never been back into those woods. There have also been no more sightings of the ghost girl, so maybe she also has had some kind of closure. I hope you enjoyed my encounter. Thank you for that lovely story. Until next time, good night.